Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spiritual Readiness in the time of the shift. I just wanted to continue the conversation that we started last week about ascendance and ascension, and the topic of enlightenment, and try to figure out the best way. I've been thinking for a week now to try to describe to you what is a process that sometimes is not describable because it's an experience that's unlike anything else that anyone has ever had. Ascension, to use an analogy, if you can think for a moment of everyone on earth being in 2D, only having length and width as point of reference. Ascension is having height perception in a 2D world. The ascended, therefore, finds it extremely complicated to try to explain to people who have limited perception what that elevation looks like. However, there are certain things that I can share with you. Ascension happens for the person who's been elevated, since we are all human still, and we're all interconnected. The person who is elevated can overlight you with the elevation. They can basically extend their energy grid over you, causing you to go into a transcendental experience just by their presence. And as they do this, they can begin to make you feel it. Because as I said last week, ascension is not an intellectual concept or a linear idea about higher consciousness. Because all of that is just language and it's completely flat. Ascension itself is a holographic, immersive experience that takes your entire body and consciousness into a higher expression. So the person who is ascended can overlight you and extend their energy on top of you, causing you to go, at least temporarily, into transcendence. And when that happens, you begin to know and experience, because it's an experience, what ascendance is. Okay? Now, ascension is not the actual mechanic to increase your energy field, is actually relatively easy to teach. Contrary to everything else that you've heard. And there are lots of books that have talked about it, that skirts around it, there are lots of books that have talked about it, but I can tell you for a fact that the actual mechanic is actually easy to teach. But what's complicated is the consequences that follows this inflation. Let me explain. Ascensions happen in 3 steps. In my book, The Primer for Ascension, I go to great length to try to explain this. But in this video, let me explain this to you. The first step is an energy increase. It's a bump. All of a sudden, you get to this holographic experience and you're able to hold this holographic experience, not for a short time, but for a while. Let's say for more than 50% of your awakened time. When that happens, you're ascended. Now, that doesn't mean that you're perfect, because the ascended is quite capable of making mistakes. And in fact, mistake will be made. But it simply means that your awareness is vastly increased. And you're complete. It's like having an extra sensory perception. Instead of 5 senses, you have something else that's highly elevated, that it makes you feel interconnected to a lot of things. Now, that energy bump, if you have not worked on the emotional body that I spoke about last week, if you had not removed the blockages, deal with your low emotion, and transmute your lead into gold, when this energy bump happened, The immediate thing that will follow at first will be, for the first couple of weeks, it will be an incredible sense of, oh, wow, I can't believe this is happening, how cool, etc. The next thing you know, you're going to begin to realize that very quickly, your thoughts are being manifested. And I mean, every thought that you're thinking will get manifested so fast and so quickly that you begin now to become terrified, because a lot of subconscious stuff that are not ideas and concepts that you can bring into polite conversation. A lot of the stuff that you were suppressing and repressing, the moment they come up, within minutes and seconds, you begin to see the consequences and the results of the thoughts. Now, to most people, that's terrifying. However, there are a few who are so enamored with the power and what I call the energy bump that they will not do anything. They will have no sense of guilt and remorse over it. There are lots of well-intentioned people that I know who have achieved that first level, that energy bump. But that energy bump is also a test for your ego. In spiritual literature, it is often referred to as the dweller on the threshold. And it will test you to see if you all have the spiritual, emotional maturity that is needed for higher work. There will be a shadow. In the case of Jesus, after his 40 days of fasting in the desert, a demon came to him, the devil came to him to tempt him and offered him all the food in the world. And he said, man does not live by bread and bread alone, by every word that comes from the mouth of God. And he passed the test because he did his work. But to a lot of people, they would have fallen victim to this tempter. And this is what happened to a lot of people who reach that first level of ascendance without doing real deep work, without doing the emotional, internal work to reprogram their subconscious mind, what I call the Dan Tien. I will explain that in a moment. The second step of ascension, if you have done that emotional work, will be an expansion of your heart space. Multiple times after that first energy bump, you will begin to feel literally like your heart is being cracked in half. The sensation is similar to, not exactly alike, but similar to being on top of a roller skate, and feeling a sense of dropping, like you're precipitately falling down, and you have to hold on. You feel like, you know, you're about and you feel like your heart is opening up. And that heart opening creates a perception, or a realization, I should say, that everything is one, that everything is merged into one awareness, that there is no separation. And it's a huge, huge shift, because suddenly we begin to realize you are not divided, you're not separated, and everything belongs together. And it brings an incredible sense of peace and serenity. The third step of ascension is very complicated to try to teach. And it is the tests and the elevation of your wisdom. And that, my friend, has to do with the understanding that the ascended is not perfect, that as this elevation occurs and this expansion of the heart occurs, that follows, that you're quite capable of making mistakes. And as you make mistakes, forgive me for a second. And as you make mistakes, what's going to happen is that you're going to end up suddenly having a sense right after the mistake I've made that something was warning you. It's like having an internal guide, which is basically your ascended self, your higher self, that comes in right about the time where you're about to take an action. And for me, what happened is that it feels like a gentle, subtle, but all-knowing wave of awareness that floods in and washes over me. And it comes in almost like a wave of water on a seashore, and it comes in and wash over me and just tells me, where you are right now, Pierre, you can't do this. And then it inflates with a complete awareness as to why I cannot do this. And I want to make very, very clear and very specific, because it's not like in the 10 Commandments and you have a tablet that tell you pass that first level of ascension, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. There is no such thing. What actually happened is that there are rules. There are things you're not supposed to transgress and go against. But you're going to have to feel your way into this field. It's like a child learning how to walk. You're going to have to feel your way into this field to actually begin to know what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. And as this happens, and it's very specific, it's custom made per individual, because my trajectory from the time I cascaded from source and now I'm in this physical body, and my ascent back to God is completely unique and specific to me. And so is yours, and so is somebody else. And therefore, the rules that will govern what is my weakness and what is my strength is completely different from you. And all of it is that higher part of you will slowly, it never tells me what I'm supposed to do. It's when I'm about to make a mistake that this awareness and this wave of consciousness comes in and begin to tell me, you can't do this. Be aware, caution, Pierre. And a complete awareness as to why I can't do it. The rules past this first 2 levels of ascension that operates is not written anywhere. It is written actually in the fabric of your soul, and only the God within you can read it. And when that information comes in, you all knowingly, you know the veracity and the truth of what's being said. And immediately you process it and you know it. And this, my friend, if you follow it, will give you wisdom. Because with this increased power comes great responsibility. And therefore, you need to have the morality and the elevated spiritual maturity and governance to know what to do and what not to do. And this is what this brings with it. Now, having said this, I should mention here that one of the greatest mistakes that I see in the light community being made by time, as I said the last time, is the lack of a work on the emotional body. Okay? It's this complete lack of understanding. We project everything on the outside. Most of the time, by the way, what irks us about other people, what causes us to foam in the mouth and causes us to be agitated and angry, the mistake and the errors that we see in others exist within us. For the world is but a mirror that reflects back the inadequacies that exist within us. And the more agitated you become about something, the more that it exists within you. And therefore, you should look within where it is and unroot it and transmute it and transform that lead into gold. Now, having said this, I promised you that I was going to bring you information on how to do this. It's a process called the Dan Tien. The Dan Tien is a term that comes from the Taoist brothers from China that has to do with an understanding of the Tao and the balancing of the yin and the yang energy. There are 3 major points, actually 4 of them. There was a secret point, that 4 of them that you should contend with. The first one is slightly above your head, and it has to do with all ideas that are related to your God concept. We have talked about this in the last video. Whatever God concept you may have, all of it, all of these ideas all collapse like an accordion from all past lives into that one location that's in pineal pituitary, and that projects a kind of a halo called the soul star above your head. The second point is in your heart space, and it's your upper heart, and that one has to do with understanding the difference between conditional loving as opposed to unconditional love. Now, let me just give you a quick understanding that the idea of unconditional love may seem an intellectually possible idea, but most of us in the flesh, I would say 99.9% of people in the flesh only love conditionally, because all the connection that we have to love are related to performance. You have to be pretty, you have to be smart, you have to be intelligent, you have to give me X, Y, Z so that I can feel that you love me. Okay? Whereas for God, I think the closest we come to this is probably the love that a mother has for a child. Although you may not be happy about the behavior that the child may have right now, and you may be critical of it, but the love is still there, right? So it probably is the closest, but it's still love unconditionally. Then the third point, which is between your pelvic bones, is the one that I want to talk about today at length. I will get back to that in a second. And the final point is slightly below your feet, and it grounds you and connects you with the earth. And it has to do specifically with issues that are relating to you being authentic and true to your purpose. Okay? Because a lot of time we think we're Bambi when in fact we may be Little Red Riding Hood, or we may be a little bit of Wicked Witch of the West. Okay? And we really think that we are something that we are not. And we become that something because we think that's what the world wants from us, because no one wants to be ostracized or rejected. And as such, we create these false identity, and it's as far as that Dan Tien point is concerned, it's like trying to fit the wrong key in a cylinder. It will not work. And when you're truly authentic, it allows that cylinder to turn, and from Gaia to recognize you, and you now become aligned, completely aligned. Now, the point that's in the pelvics, going back to that third point, I should mention is probably the one that's the most important for us, because in that area are three things, okay? It has to do with all fears that you have accumulated from all past lives and from this life. All collapse like an accordion into that one area. Second item or issue related to that point, it has to do with all suppressed or repressed sexual issues. All collapse at that same point. Thirdly, it has to do with all power-related issue. And I mean by that, whether you're a victim and you've been victimized, or you were the perpetrator against somebody, or you misuse power. And by the way, if you were a victim in a past life, you probably were the perpetrator. That's the way these things work for balancing of karma, right? And so for most light worker, that lower Dan Tien area, it's not, the Dan Tien, by the way, is not a chakra. It's an energy knot. It's not a chakra, although it is conjunct with the solar plexus, the sexual chakra, and the first chakra, but it's not chakra. It's an energy knot. And I want to explain that and make you understand that it's very different. Moreover, those points, that's where you need to go and let your awareness drop into in order for you to get yourself to a point of higher consciousness. To really begin to deal with your emotions and allow this emotion to begin to unravel, causing you now to reconcile. Because let's say, for example, you discover you believe yourself to be in a certain way, when in fact that's not true, you are something else. Now, having recognized that there is a false belief that exists in your body and that belief is incorrect, you need then to dismantle that false belief by having that program removed. And you need to ground what is now true. This is what I mean by reconciliation. Okay? And there's a whole process to do this. So to close, I'm going to do a short meditation into the Dan Tien. It's a faster version. And usually the Dan Tien work that I've been doing, I have been doing the Dan Tien meditation for this November, 3 years straight. 15 minutes every day. No more than that. Because if you go any deeper, you will overwhelm yourself with feelings and emotion that you can't handle. Pray before you do the Dan Tien. Ask if is a higher being than you, whether it is God, angel, archangel, ascended master, to overlight you and protect you while you do this exploration. And then I'm going to guide you to the meditation. 10, 15 minutes every day. And it has yielded for me more information about me than all spiritual exercise combined that I have done for the past 20 years. It has been the most fruitful thing that I've ever done. Okay? So without further ado, let's go into the meditation. Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop at a point that exists between your pelvic bones. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. And I let go. Become aware of any suppressed or repressed feelings. That you're holding in that part of your body. Without judgments. Notice what you noticed. Pay attention to any sensation that may exist. Is it in one location? or maybe multiple places. What are you feeling? Is it one feeling? Or maybe a combination of feelings? Does this remind you of anything? What lie or deceit am I telling myself? What am I blinding myself to? The truth will set you free. Your body knows the truth. Listen. Listen as if all the cells in the part of your body had ears. The truth will set you free. Allow the subtle changes and the inner knowing to reveal to you the truth that lies within you. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Now take a very deep breath from the core of the earth, and as you inhale deeply, let this breath move through your body, passing through you, exiting outside of your head, and release it into source outside of time and space, and let go. Now take a deep breath from source and allow the solution set and the healing and the repairs to come in. Take a deep breath and bring this cascade of goodness into your body and let it ground in your Dan Tien. Take another deep breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through you, passing through your body and exit outside of your head. Release it and let it go. It is not your burden to repair, fix, or do anything. Surrender and allow. Release and let go. Take another deep breath from source and let the solution set and the repairs to move into your body as you inhale deeply. And let this breath ground into your Dan Tien. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes. I just want to add that this meditation should be done once a day on a continuous basis. And as you do this, the blockages that may seem unsurmountable or sensation that are not describable at first will begin to softly over the weeks and the days and the months yield a very specific lie or self-deceit, a false belief. And once that happens, by breathing it to source, you're releasing it and letting go, and the solution set will come evident to you as the new axis, and what is the correction will come to you. And that way you will begin to reconcile and transmute that lead into gold. Now, I want to thank you for watching this video today. If you like this video, please like it and also subscribe to the channel. Please leave comments. Let me know what you're thinking. Suggest any topic of conversation that you would love for me to follow. Look forward to talking to you next week. Blessings, everyone. Namaste. Thank you for joining me.